The horse burst unexpectedly into the hospital, stunning the security guards and doctors. However, what the animal did next with the patient left everyone completely astonished. The wind blew forcefully across the vast plains of Chihuahua, kicking up dust and making the dry grasses whisper as they stretched as far as the eye could see. It was a day like any other for Felipe, who, at 12 years old, already knew the solitude of the countryside, the burning heat, and the breeze that sometimes brought the promise of a storm. Felipe had spent most of his day guiding the sheep across the terrain, ensuring they grazed well before taking them back home. He didn't complain, although sometimes he wished for more company than the distant bleating of his flock. He enjoyed this life of freedom, of running through the plains and feeling that there was no limit but the horizon. But that day was different. As he walked, he saw something unusual among the dry bushes in the distance. Something dark moved weakly under the sunlight, barely perceptible through the heat haze. He approached cautiously, eyes squinting to focus better. As he drew closer, his heart began to beat faster. "A horse," he murmured to himself as his steps quickened. There, lying on the ground, was a young foal covered in sweat and dust. The animal's breathing was shallow and labored, and a deep wound on its side bled slowly, staining the sand red. Felipe knelt beside it, his heart in his throat. At first glance, the horse was seriously injured, and given the amount of blood it had lost, it didn't seem to have much chance of survival. But something in its gaze, in the way its dark eyes half opened upon sensing Felipe's presence, moved him deeply. He couldn't leave it there. Even though he knew the odds weren't in his favor, he decided to do what his heart dictated. "Come on, boy. I'm not going to leave you alone here," he said. With effort, Felipe improvised a blanket and used it to wrap the horse, doing his best not to aggravate its pain. His father had always told him that animals understood more than they seemed to, and Felipe could feel how the foal struggled to stay conscious, as if he knew the boy was there to help. The journey back to the village was long and exhausting. Each step reminded him that time was running out for the horse, but Felipe didn't stop. When he finally reached his family's ranch, the sun was already setting, and his mother, surprised to see him arrive with the animal, helped him prepare a warm corner in the stable. "Felipe, are you sure it's worth it?" "This foal is very ill, son," his mother said softly but worriedly as she stroked her sweat-covered hair. "I know, Mom," he replied with determination. "But something tells me it has to live. I can't let it die." For days, Felipe devoted himself to caring for the foal with dedication. He gave it water little by little, washed its wounds, and covered it with blankets to keep it warm during the cold nights. He watched as the animal breathed with difficulty, hoping that each breath wouldn't be its last. Curious neighbors, upon hearing the story, began to visit, but not many believed the foal would survive. "It's too weak," some said. "Better to end its suffering," others suggested. But Felipe paid them no attention. He continued caring for the animal with blind faith, guided by something he couldn't explain. Days passed, and miraculously, the foal not only resisted but began to recover. The bleeding stopped, and although the wound remained deep, the horse's breathing became more regular. Felipe couldn't hide his joy when he saw it trying to stand on his shaky legs. Finally, one morning when he entered the stable with fresh water, he found it standing. The foal looked at him steadily with a gaze Felipe would never forget, full of strength and gratitude. It was as if the animal knew its life had been saved by that boy who hadn't given up. "You did it," he whispered with a smile that lit up his face. "I'll call you Chispa." And so, Chispa became his inseparable companion. Wherever Felipe went, Chispa followed, his gait always calm but firm. The days on the plain became more lively with the presence of the young horse, which soon regained its strength completely. As the days in the vast plains of Chihuahua passed, Chispa and Felipe became inseparable. The time they shared in the field, with the wind whispering through the dry bushes and dark clouds swirling in the distance, strengthened a bond that no one in the village fully understood. "That horse is something special," some would say. But for Felipe, Chispa was simply his loyal companion. the only one who had been by his side when no one believed he would survive. However, strange things soon began to happen. One afternoon, as Felipe was guiding the sheep to the river, the sunlight was already beginning to fade, painting the sky in orange and pink hues. Everything seemed normal, like any other day. The sheep bleated softly, and Chispa trotted beside him, always alert. Felipe felt calm, with the certainty that the day was about to end. But then, without warning, a thick fog began to form in the distance. It was strange, as fog was rarely seen on the plain at that time of year. Felipe looked towards the horizon, frowning. Something wasn't right. The fog advanced quickly, enveloping everything in its path. In a matter of minutes, the familiar landscape disappeared, and Felipe could no longer see the distant mountains or the path that always guided him back to the village. Silence took over the place, and the confused sheep began to disperse. "Spark!" Felipe shouted, his heart pounding. He felt trapped, disoriented. He didn't know which direction to walk. Spark, on the other hand, didn't move. The horse stood still for a moment, its ears erect as if listening to something Felipe couldn't hear. Suddenly, without warning, Chispa neighed loudly, a deep and clear sound that cut through the dense air of the fog. Without wasting time, the horse began to run, moving away from the sheep, straight towards the village. Felipe stood paralyzed, not understanding what was happening. "Where are you going?" he murmured. But a strange sensation ran through him. There was something in the way Chispa reacted, as if it knew they were in danger. He stopped looking for the sheep and decided to follow it, despite not being able to see even a meter ahead of him. He could hear in the distance the sound of Chispa's hooves against the dry earth, a sound that gave him the confidence to continue, although each step took him further into the unknown. The fog remained thick, but then, in the distance, he heard a new sound, voices. The voices of the men from the village. "Here he is! Here he is!" one of them shouted. Felipe felt immense relief when he saw the lanterns swaying in the darkness. The villagers had found him, thanks to Chispa. The horse had arrived running at the village, neighing in a way no one had ever seen before, and with its nervous behavior, it had alerted the men that something wasn't right. Thanks to that, they had gone out to look for Felipe just in time. The men took him back to the village, surprised by the way the horse had reacted. "That animal is not like the others," one of the neighbors commented. "It has a sixth sense, something we can't explain." Felipe, still confused but grateful, only stroked Chispa's back when they arrived home. "Thank you, friend," he whispered. And although he didn't fully understand what had happened, he knew that somehow Chispa had saved him. But that wasn't the only time Chispa demonstrated a special sense for danger. Weeks later, one morning, Felipe was preparing everything to go out to the field. The sky suddenly turned dark, black clouds advancing quickly, but the thunder that normally announced a storm wasn't heard. Spark, who until that moment had been calm, began to act strangely. It neighed loudly and ran in circles around Felipe, as if trying to warn him of something. "What's wrong?" Felipe asked, worried. The horse kept running, increasingly nervous. Felipe looked at the sky, and it was then that he felt the first taste of icy wind, a wind that came without warning, lifting dust and leaves. Felipe understood that something big was approaching. "A storm," he said to himself. "A storm that's coming fast." Thanks to Chispa's warning, Felipe made the decision to take the sheep to the shed before the storm caught them in the open field. He barely made it. Minutes later, the sky broke into a fierce downpour, with thunder and lightning that shook the earth. If it hadn't been for Chispa, the sheep and Felipe would have been trapped under the relentless gale of the storm. The story of how Chispa always seemed to know when danger lurked began to circulate among the neighbors. Some took it with admiration, others with certain misgivings, but everyone knew there was something special about that horse. It wasn't just its strength or loyalty. There was something more, something they couldn't explain. Furthermore, on more than one occasion, Felipe saw how Chispa approached other injured or sick animals. It was as if the horse had an instinct to detect suffering. When he saw it, Chispa would approach its muzzle to the wounds, and within days, the animals would begin to recover faster than any veterinarian could have predicted. Although many in the village murmured about what that meant, Felipe just smiled. For him, Chispa was his companion, his friend, and nothing else mattered. The years passed slowly on the plain, with its burning sun and cold nights that covered the horizon in silence. Chispa continued to be Felipe's inseparable companion, always by his side on every journey, as if he had been born to be there, like a faithful shadow that never abandoned him. Felipe was no longer the child who had rescued a dying foal. Now he was a young adult with broader shoulders and a face weathered by work under the sun. But his heart remained the same, generous, passionate about life in the open air, and loyal to those he loved. It was on one of those golden summer afternoons when Felipe met Ines. Ines was the daughter of a family that had moved to the village recently. Her long, dark, wavy hair reflected the sunlight in a way Felipe had never seen before. Her laughter, always light like the wind, echoed in the hills when she went out for walks. It didn't take long before their gases crossed more than once in the village market, and with each encounter, something inside Felipe stirred. One day, while walking with Chispa by the river, he saw her sitting on the shore, her bare feet splashing in the cold water. At first, he hesitated to approach, but Chispa, as if he had sensed the urgency in his owner's heart, walked directly towards her, gently pushing with his muzzle. Ines let out a laugh and looked up. Felipe, nervous, took a step forward. "He's very friendly," she said, smiling as she stroked Chispa's soft skin. Felipe smiled too, scratching the back of his neck, not knowing exactly what to say. "He always has been. It seems he trusts you." That first simple encounter marked the beginning of something neither of them had planned. Chispa seemed to be the catalyst, for after that day, Ines and Felipe began to spend more time together. She would join him on walks through the plain, sometimes riding on Chispa while the wind played with her hair, and Felipe, from the ground, couldn't take his eyes off her. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. The love between them grew slowly, calmly, like the waters of the river that flowed through the mountains. There was no rush, no grand declarations, just the certainty that somehow their destinies were intertwined. It wasn't long before they got married. It was a small, simple ceremony celebrated in the village church. There was no luxury or grand banquets, but there was something more important: love and the promise of a shared future. The neighbors commented on how happy they looked, and Chispa, as always, was present, watching everything from a prudent but symbolic distance. Life with Ines was a haven of peace for Felipe. They worked together in the field, laughing, and with each passing day, the love between them grew stronger. And when Ines gave him the news that she was expecting a child, Felipe felt that his already blessed life was complete. "A child," Felipe murmured with a broad smile as he caressed Ines's belly. Ines laughing happily, sharing that illusion with him. Chispa also seemed to perceive the excitement in the air. Its calm behavior remained, but from time to time, the horse would approach Ines as if it understood that something important was growing inside her. Ines's pregnancy progressed without complications. Felipe spent his days building a small crib in his workshop, imagining the future that awaited them as a family. Chispa continued to be a constant presence, sometimes following Felipe to the field, sometimes staying close to Ines at home, as if wanting to protect her. Everything seemed perfect. Life on the ranch, the wait for the child they so desired, the warm afternoons on the plain, until fate, with its unpredictable nature, began to weave threads of uncertainty. It all happened so quickly that it was like a bad dream, one of those you want to forget, but that stays trapped in your chest, heavy, unbreakable. Ines, with her already large belly, had gone out early to the village to do some shopping. Felipe had stayed at the ranch, working on the crib he had been building for the baby, thinking that soon his life would be complete. The days seemed to have passed like a gentle breeze, and although the pregnancy had been calm, there was always a small knot of worry in him, that inevitable fear that companions love. But that day was different. Spark, who until that moment had been calm, began to behave strangely. It neighed, walked from side to side, its hooves hitting the dry earth insistently, as if something in the air had disturbed it. Felipe dropped the hammer and approached the corral, observing the horse that continued to be agitated. "What's wrong, Chispa?" he murmured as he stroked its back. But the animal didn't calm down. On the contrary, its movements were more nervous, its gaze fixed on the horizon as if it could see something Felipe's eyes couldn't reach. It was at that precise moment when the phone rang, breaking the heavy silence of the afternoon. Felipe's heart tightened even before he picked up the receiver, a dark premonition he couldn't explain. "Mr. Felipe." The voice on the other end was formal, but had a low, almost compassionate tone. "It's from the hospital. I'm very sorry, but your wife Inés has had an accident." Felipe felt his throat close before he could utter the words. He felt a chill that ran through his body from his chest to his legs. "Inés? Where is she?" His voice came out weak, barely recognizable. "I'm sorry, sir. Inés didn't do it. Your son is in intensive care, but you must come to the hospital immediately." The call cut off, but the echo of those words remained suspended in the air. Didn't make it. Didn't make it. Inés, his Inés, the woman who filled every corner of his life with light, was gone. The pain hit like a gale that made him stagger. Felipe felt his legs weak. The air was missing, as if his chest were trapped in an invisible prison. "Inés!" he shouted, but there was no response, only the wind and Chispa's distant neighbors, which remained restless. In the midst of the shock, Felipe barely had time to think. He ran to the car, desperate to get to the hospital. He had to see Ernesto. He had to cling to the only spark of life he had left. But his mind wasn't clear. The pain was so intense that it clouded his senses. His trembling hands gripped the steering wheel, and without thinking, he stepped on the accelerator. The road to the hospital. Al was long and dangerous, but desperation blinded him. The car moved fast, too fast. The memories of Inés, her laughter, her eyes, everything they had dreamed together slid through his mind like a broken film. But before he could process the full weight of the tragedy, the inevitable happened. On a sharp curve, the car skidded. The wheels slid on the gravel, and the vehicle lost control. Felipe tried to turn the steering wheel, but everything happened in a matter of seconds. The sound of metal crashing against rock was the last thing he heard before everything turned black. Somewhere far away, Chispa neighed once more, a heart-rending cry that echoed across the empty plain. Time seemed to stand still at that moment. Felipe lay unconscious, trapped among the twisted metal of the car, while his newborn son fought for his life in an incubator without the warmth of his mother. Tragedy had enveloped the entire family in a cloak of darkness, and on the horizon, storm clouds began to form. Hours later, paramedics found Felipe. They carefully extracted him from the vehicle. He was barely breathing, his body shattered by the impact. They immediately took him to the hospital, to the same place where his son was clinging to life. The tale we've just explored illuminates the profound connection between humans and animals, particularly highlighting the extraordinary bond between Felipe and Chispa. This narrative, Chispa transcends the role of a mere horse, evolving throughout Felipe's most steadfast companion, guide, and protector during life's most challenging moments. This relationship surpasses conventional boundaries, reaching an almost spiritual plane where the animal seems to understand its owner's pain, needs, and fears in a manner that defies verbal communication. Felipe's emotional journey is a poignant odyssey of loss, love, and ultimate redemption. The tragic death of his beloved wife, Inés, plunges him into an abyss of sorrow. However, it's the unwavering presence of Chispa, and later the arrival of his son Ernesto, that provides the anchor, keeping him tethered to hope and life itself. Chispa embodies not only the unconditional love and loyalty that animals are capable of offering, but also serves as a beacon of hope amidst the darkest despair. Through his profound connection with Chispa, Felipe rediscovers the inherent value of perseverance, of refusing to succumb to adversity, no matter how overwhelming it may seem. The message resonating throughout this narrative is crystal clear. When treated with genuine love and respect, animals have the capacity to reciprocate that affection in ways that are both unexpected and deeply moving. The bond between Felipe and Chispa serves as a powerful reminder that the connection between humans and animals can be just as profound and transformative as those we share with our fellow human beings. This extraordinary relationship demonstrates the ability of such bonds to offer solace, to heal invisible wounds, and to remind us that in our darkest hours, love and loyalty, regardless of their source, will invariably guide us towards the light. The story of Felipe and Chispa is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the transformative power of unconditional love, whether it comes from a person or an animal. As we reflect on this tale, we're reminded of the myriad ways in which animals enrich our lives. They offer companionship in moments of solitude, provide comfort in times of distress, and often seem to possess an innate understanding of our emotional states that surpasses human comprehension. The bond between Felipe and Chispa illustrates how animals can become not just pets, but integral members of our families, sharing in our joys and sorrows, and leaving indelible imprints on our hearts. Furthermore, this story challenges us to reconsider our perceptions of the animal kingdom. It invites us to contemplate the depth of emotion and intelligence that animals may possess, encouraging us to approach our interactions with them with greater empathy and respect. The seemingly mystical connection between Felipe and Chispa suggests that there may be aspects of animal consciousness that we have yet to fully understand or appreciate. The narrative also explores themes of grief, healing, and the cyclical nature of life. Felipe's journey from rescuing Chispa as a foal to being saved by him in turn speaks to the interconnectedness of all living beings. It reminds us that acts of kindness and compassion often return to us in unexpected ways, sometimes when we need them most. This cyclical pattern of giving and receiving love forms the backbone of the story, underscoring the importance of compassion and empathy in our relationships with all creatures. Furthermore, the story touches upon the concept of resilience in the face of devastating loss. Felipe's ability to find the strength to continue, to care for his newborn son despite the heart-wrenching loss of his wife, is a powerful testament to the human capacity for endurance. Chispa's unwavering presence serves as a symbol of hope and continuity, a living reminder that even in our darkest moments, we are never truly alone. The tale also delves into the mysterious and often inexplicable nature of the bonds we form with animals. Chispa's ability to sense danger, his seemingly supernatural understanding of Felipe's needs, and his pivotal role in Felipe and Ernesto's miraculous recovery all point to a depth of connection that defies logical explanation. This aspect of the story invites readers to embrace the possibility of forces are beyond current understanding, encouraging an open-minded approach to the mysteries of life and the animal kingdom. As the narrative concludes, we're left with a profound sense of the enduring nature of true obligations. Even as Chispa returns to the plains, his spirit remains an integral part of Felipe and Ernesto's lives. This ending serves as a metaphor for the lasting impact that our animal companions have on us, their influence continuing long after they've physically left our sides. It's a poignant reminder that love, in all its forms, has the power to transcend physical boundaries and even death itself. In essence, this story is a celebration of the transformative power of love, loyalty, and the unbreakable bonds we form with those around us, be they human or animal. It challenges us to open our hearts, to embrace the unexpected connections that life offers us, and to recognize the profound impact that animals can have on our lives. As we close this chapter of Felipe and Chispa's journey, we're left with a renewed appreciation for the companionship of animals and a deeper understanding of the myriad ways in which they enrich our human experience. The profound connection between humans and animals, as exemplified by Felipe and Chispa's extraordinary bond, serves as a powerful reminder of the incredible depth and complexity of interspecies relationships. This narrative transcends the typical pet-owner dynamic, delving into a realm where animals become not just companions, but integral parts of our emotional and spiritual lives. Chispa's unwavering presence throughout Felipe's journey of loss, grief, and eventual healing demonstrates the transformative power of animal companionship in ways that words often fail to capture. As we reflect on this tale, we're compelled to reconsider our understanding of animal consciousness and the depths of emotion they're capable of experiencing and sharing. Chispa's seemingly supernatural ability to sense danger, provide comfort, and even contribute to Felipe and Ernesto's miraculous recovery challenges our conventional notions of animal intelligence and empathy. It raises profound questions about the nature of consciousness itself and the potential for deep, meaningful connections across species boundaries. The cyclical nature of care and protection in Felipe and Chispa's relationship. From Felipe rescuing the injured foal to Chispa later saving Felipe and his son, speaks to a universal truth about the interconnectedness of all living beings. It reminds us that acts of kindness and compassion often return to us in unexpected ways, creating a web of mutual support and love that can sustain us through even the darkest times. This reciprocal care underscores the importance of treating all creatures with respect and empathy, recognizing that the bonds we form with animals can be just as profound and life-altering as those we share with other humans. Felipe's journey through grief and his eventual path to healing, guided by Chispa's steadfast presence, offers a poignant exploration of resilience in the face of devastating loss. The story illustrates how the unconditional love and loyalty of an animal companion can provide a lifeline beautifully when everyone else seems lost. Chispa becomes more than just a pet. He emerges as a symbol of hope, a living reminder that even in our most isolated moments, we are never truly alone. The mysterious and often inexplicable nature of the bond between Felipe and Chispa invites readers to embrace the possibility of forces beyond our current understanding. Chispa's intuitive grasp of Felipe's emotional state, his ability to bridge the gap between life and death, and his role in the family's healing process all point to a depth of connection that defies logical explanation. This aspect of the story encourages us to approach the world with wonder and openness, recognizing that there may be aspects of the human-animal bond that science has yet to fully understand or explain. As Chispa returns to the plains at the story's conclusion, we're left with a profound sense of the enduring nature of true obligations. His physical departure doesn't diminish his impact on Felipe and Ernesto's lives. Rather, it transforms into a spiritual presence that continues to guide and comfort them. This powerful metaphor reminds us that the influence of our animal companions extends far beyond their physical presence, shaping our lives and hearts in ways that persist long after they've gone. The narrative also touches upon the healing power of nature and the importance of our connection to the natural world. Chispa, as a creature of the plains, represents a link to the wild, untamed aspects of life that often elude us in our modern existence. His presence in Felipe's life serves as a constant reminder of the beauty, mystery, and raw power of nature, offering solace and perspective in times of turmoil. Furthermore, the story challenges us to reconsider our relationships with all animals, not just those we keep as pets. It prompts us to reflect on the vast network of creatures with whom we share this planet, encouraging a more compassionate and considerate approach to our interactions with the animal kingdom as a whole. The deep bond between Felipe and Chispa serves as a microcosm for the potential harmony that could exist between humans and nature if we approach it with open hearts and minds. The tale also explores the concept of family in its broadest sense, illustrating how our definition of kin can expand to include beings of different species. Chispa's role in Felipe and Ernesto's life blurs the lines between pet and family member, showcasing how animals can fill emotional voids and provide support in ways that are uniquely their own. This expanded notion of family challenges traditional boundaries and invites us to recognize the diverse forms that love and companionship can take. As we contemplate the depths of the connection between Felipe and Chispa, we're reminded of the countless stories of extraordinary bonds between humans and animals throughout history and across cultures. From therapy animals that provide comfort to those in need, to working animals that form partnerships with humans in various fields, to the simple yet profound companionship offered by our pets, these relationships PS enrich our lives in myriad ways. The story of Felipe and Chispa serves as a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the transformative power of unconditional love. It reminds us that even in our darkest moments, hope can come from unexpected sources, and that the capacity for healing and growth often lies in the connections we forge with others, be they human or animal. As we close this chapter of their journey, we're left with a renewed appreciation for the companionship of animals and a deeper understanding of the profound impact they can have on our lives. Ultimately, this narrative invites us to open our hearts to the possibilities of deep, meaningful connections with the animals in our lives. It challenges us to look beyond surface differences and recognize the shared capacity for love, loyalty, and understanding that exists across species. In doing so, we not only enrich our own lives but also contribute to a more compassionate and interconnected world, one where the bonds between humans and animals are recognized, celebrated, and nurtured for the profound gifts they truly are.